Instructions for accessing subtitles in a language other than English are included on our board meetings webpage as well as in the description below. Instrucciones para acceder a los subtítulos en un idioma que no sea el inglés se incluyen en nuestra página web de reuniones de la Junta, así como en la descripción a continuación.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting. Today is October 23rd, 2024, and I am calling our meeting to order at 6:32. We have 3 trustees present here at the Ross Valley School District office at 100 Shaw Drive. Myself, Rachel Litwack, Chris Landles-Cobb, and Daniel Cassidy. Brian O'Neill and Shelley Hamilton are not able to attend today. We also have 3 cabinet members present, Superintendent Tyler Graff, Eric Staple, and Chris Carson. Our meeting is being live streamed via YouTube, and the link is on our website and the agenda. There will be a 60-second delay between the meeting and the YouTube live stream. An audio recording of the meeting will be made available to the public on our district website within 72 hours of the meeting. And then, let's see, so moving on. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would like to join me, you may, and stand in.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is to adopt the agenda and time allocations. Does anybody have any questions or changes to the agenda?
So I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Sorry.
No, good.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda and time allocations.
Great.
And I'll second
All right, so Chris,
Aye.
Daniel,
it. Aye.
and Rachel, aye. All right, so we have an adopted agenda. And moving on to communication, we have public comment regarding items not on the open session agenda. It looks like we have, yeah, we have one. So if Florence, you would like to come up and speak? You have 3 minutes. And then we'll let you know at like 2.5 minutes, so you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Let me know when. Okay. Good evening. My name is Florencia Parada. I'm a former Ross Valley School District parent. My daughter attended Fairfax Anselmo Children's Center, Manor School in White Hill before graduating from Yale University. She still lives here in Fairfax, a place we both love so much. Like her, I contribute to our local economy and have devoted my life to supporting families, especially those from minority backgrounds, by providing access to equitable educational tools that foster growth, self-discovery, and the ability to become agents of change. At the Fairfax and Anselmo Children's Center, where I work full-time, our values of inclusion and equity shape everything we do. These principles should guide all educational spaces, but sadly, our efforts have been met with hostility. We have been targeted by bullying strategies that dehumanize our work, our values, and even our presence in this district. This year, on January 18, during the traumatic process of purchasing the Deer Park property, Ross Valley School District Board President Rachel Litwack used more than once the offensive term squatters to describe us as we exercise our legal rights. It was deeply hurtful and dangerous, spreading false and harmful narratives. I sat here in this very room in disbelief as you chose the word squatters against a minority group, against me, my family, my daughter. No one, especially a school board leader, should use such a language. It's not enough to elect diverse people based on race or ethnicity. If those individuals use their position of power to perpetuate oppressive strategies, silencing, canceling, and intimidating others. I witnessed, unfortunately, Shelley Hamilton is not here, how she harassed us during a public conference on children's issues in San Rafael, taking photos and videotaping us in a clear attempt at intimidation, showing us all that her actions do not align with equitable access to opportunities for all children. The lack of acknowledgement of your implicit biases is disheartening, especially when some of you publicly express that we come from the other side of the bridge when we don't. The kind of language only deepens division and perpetuates harmful stereotypes, undermining the values of equity and inclusion that our community should stand for. So even if only one person challenges your actions in this election, it represents an opportunity to hold you accountable. And I hope the Ross Valley School District community can find a way to bring transparency and integrity to its leadership. The bullying tactics and insulting words towards a minority are issues you will have to carry with you for the rest of your life, explaining to your own children the shameful and disgraceful moment that define your school board career. It is time for the district to review and fully implement its equity, diversity, and inclusion framework. We need accountability and leadership that embody integrity. The future of our children and our community depends on it. And last but not least, when we honor the land of our ancestors, it should be done with genuine respect. It is not routine to be performed without meaning every meeting and every meeting. If you cannot uphold the values of dignity, respect, and equity,
Thank you for your
it's
comment.
time
You had
to
your 3
set
minutes.
it's time to step aside for leaders who can.
Excuse me, the 3 minutes.
Yes, I am done, and hopefully there is a time for reflect on what I say with respect. It is time to self-reflect on what we're doing and our actions.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on. The next item is correspondence and communication to the board. It doesn't look like we have anything there. So going on to our next item, D, presentation and or action items. The first one is an enrollment update.
Great. So as the board asked us to do, is we're going to come to you all just to give a little bit of an update every few months on where we are with enrollment and attendance. So you'll see here that our enrollment in month 2 is at 1680, which is a drop from 1683 in the first month. If you scroll down to the second page, you can see here by school how it's changed from month to month and grade level to grade level. So if you want to get into the weeds about where we're losing kids, there's no real big pattern. You'll see a little bit, there's two kids that have left from White Hill, a couple have come from White Thomas, so it's just a little bit here and there overall. If you'll scroll back up to that first page. One question I had from a community member, I think at our budget advisory meeting on Monday, was about the transition from 5th to 6th grade. And what you can see here is we have 184 5th graders and 194 6th graders. So that's kind of comparing two different cohorts, but you can see that the number usually goes up a little bit because we get students from Ross Valley Charter or from other areas coming into the district. The thing I want to pay attention to is the last column here is the current attendance. This has been something we've been focused on. We talked about this with our principals on Tuesday, and our goal is kind of to get back to pre-pandemic levels, which is right around 97% daily attendance. And you'll see most of our schools are kind of in that zone. Manor's a little bit lower at 95.9, so still close. And then White Hill's at 95.7. Usually attendance is a little lower at the middle school and even lower at the high school level. So it's just something to note. Overall, we're at 96.56 for the year so far. The other thing that I want to pay attention to here is that typically we start the year off pretty strong with attendance, and as the spring kind of rolls in, we see these numbers decline a little bit. So it's really important for us to keep this up and keep reminding the community how important attendance is.
And our bogey is 97.
Yeah. If we could get to 97%, that would be really wonderful.
That could be good to show next time we do this, just year over year comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so where we were month 2 of last year and where we finished, just to give some context, like, hey, this seems great. We're doing it. Everybody's listening to the emails. Well, maybe, but they tend to start out strong. And so that just moved, and I see that trend.
Yep. Happy to do that.
And then how do we think about, if I can ask this question, joined classrooms?
like a 1-2 split, is there a hard and fast rule on, is it teacher input? Is it district input? Or is it art?
Yeah, that decision is usually coming out of my office. This year, Teresa and I were the ones that were kind of looking at the numbers and comparing class sizes. It typically comes down to looking at the class sizes at a particular school. So for instance, at Hidden Valley, taking a look at the maybe the first grade, is the combo is a
3-4.
It's a 3-4. Thanks, I knew you'd know. You would look at Hidden Valley's 3-4 numbers, and if you can't make a whole class at the class size average, and you only have like 15 kids, and you've got 15 kids hanging out in the fourth, then you have to combine those 15. So it's really a numbers game. We've got a couple of them across the district. We want to avoid them at all costs. There's no doubt. It's way too expensive for us to run a class size of like 15. So when I talked to the union earlier this year, we actually looked at the spreadsheet that Teresa and I were using, and it was pretty clear there was no other solution other than hire another teacher, but that would have costed us, close to $125,000, which we really don't have in the budget. And if we did, we'd want to prioritize that for salaries for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tough calculation. Like I said, we always want to avoid them. Our union partners would love for us to avoid them at all costs, but it's something that happens because of the small size of our schools. Larger schools don't have the problem as much.
Yeah, they can spread the students out across 6 classrooms.
That's right.
And it's,
I just, having my ear to the ground, as I always do, the feedback that I've heard from parents who've read the communications around ADA has been positive. And they're grateful for the clarity of explaining what it means instead of just saying butts and seats. And I just wanted to convey that to you, that they are being read and the communication's being well received. And people seem to be conscious of at least saying, if my kid has an appointment, we'll make it at 2:00 in the afternoon. We'll do those things to make sure that attendance is really not affected.
Yeah, I'm getting some similar feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Also getting some feedback around our attendance letters and just the amount of messaging we're doing this year.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to thread the needle between like being really clear and
Mhm.
consistent in our messaging,
Mm-hmm.
but not being too overbearing where we're kind of turning
Yeah.
folks off with it. So
Yeah.
I think we're close right now, but we'll have to pay attention as we move on throughout the year.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
No more questions? Any public comments? Is there anybody who would like to publicly comment on this item? Alright, then we have no more questions or discussion here?
No.
Alright, we'll move it along then. Next item is presentation and or action items, facilities, revenue, spending priorities.
Great. So I'm really excited to present this. Through the sale of one of our properties last year, we generated about $2 million in revenue. We're ending up having to pay some legal fees for that process. So we're kind of netting about $1.8 million, almost $1.9 million. And we need to find a way to spend that money only on facilities. So this is money that we cannot use for salaries. We really need to focus on facilities because it was a facilities purchase. So that's part of the rationale for not using it for salaries. Plus, it's one-time money. This is not ongoing revenue. This is a one-time dump of cash for us, but we can't use it for ongoing expenses. What we found was we went through a bit of a process. We've done a few different things. First, this summer when I was first here, Chris, Des, and I sat down to say, hey, what's going on with the facilities? What are the big needs? We kind of created an initial list. Then we took that to our principals. Our principals added on some of their items as well. And then we sent out a survey to the community, and we actually had 316 people answer that survey. So anyone listening that answered that survey, provided feedback, voted, thank you for doing that. The input from that survey is actually implemented in the plan that we're bringing to the board today. The only other thing that I want to mention is that Chris, Des, and I, along with the principals and a number of board members, have done facilities walkthroughs at all 5 of our sites now. We finished our last 2 today. So we're gathering more data about what our facilities needs are in those walkthroughs. Some of the things in the walkthrough are going to get taken care of with PTA dollars. Some of it's going to get done with our routine restricted maintenance money, and others will get done with the facilities monies we're talking about tonight. So you'll see on the board item, there was both a vote section and a comment section to the community. And I tallied the top votes. It was a rank order 1 out of 8. Any item that got a 1, a 2, or a 3 vote, I counted as a single vote, just to kind of see if this was a top 3 vote from the community. The shade structures had 183 first, second, or third place votes. Preventative maintenance got 168 votes. Solar panels, beautification, you can kind of see the list there. And you'll see some of the things like the Brookside Bridge probably isn't going to get as many votes because it's really one school specific, and it's, if you're a Hidden Valley family, it's less likely that you're going to vote for spending money on the Brookside Bridge. And then transitional kindergarten is another one that's kind of like that. If you've got a 4th grader and an 8th grader, it's less likely you're concerned about TK playgrounds. What we found in the comments was actually super helpful, and I really want to thank the community here. There were 3 big trends that came up. The first one, far and away, was paying attention to the fields. The Manor field and the White Hill field came to the top of the list. Repairing those fields, getting them in a better working condition is something we'll spend some of the facilities money upon your approval. Another thing is we need to talk about our facilities use agreements for the leagues that use our fields. We need to generate some revenue from that, like every other school district does, in order to maintain those at the level that the athletics teams want. So there's kind of a twofold there. Outdoor learning and recreational spaces was another thing that came up in the survey data, and then also safety enhancements. And this was specifically like fencing. We did a walkthrough of one of the campuses today, and there's like pretty open access in a number of areas on this one campus, and having some more fencing to have a little bit more secure campus was one of the things that we noticed today. Also some safety cameras. We have lots of use on the weekends, and we see things get broken on the weekends sometimes, and having some cameras would be super helpful. So that's kind of the feedback from the community. Shade structures and preventative maintenance on the survey side were the top vote getters, and then field improvement and safety and security was the top in terms of the comments.
Safety, it sounds like it's more infrastructurally
That's right.
fixing things so
Cameras
that
and
they're safer.
fences,
So
really.
it's not like there's a problem with security.
That's right. Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay, I didn't know. I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yes.
Well, security, you'd be able to fence off a schoolyard better so people aren't just walking on the campus.
That's hard.
Yeah,
And I think this is a really unique thing that part of what I'd like for us to get done is a little bit more closed off campuses. And I think some of our parent community would like to see that too. But again, there's this the community uses our school campuses for a lot of things on the weekends, and it is a place to recreate after school, certainly not while schools are in session. So we want the community to use our facilities, so we don't want it so locked off that it feels like there's a fence around the whole perimeter. But we also don't want people e-biking through our campuses in the middle of the school day, walking their dogs on the grass fields during the school day. These are things that often happen that we want to really send a message to the community. These are places where we only want people that are supposed to be working with our kids on campus for safety of our children as a form of first and foremost thing. So that safety is really, you're right, Trustee Landels-Cobb, it's really about fencing and cameras more than it is about a big safety concern. So when we talk to our admin's gonna have a little bit different lens than our parent community. Obviously, parent community is really interested in fields because not only do their kids use it during the school day, but they use it for soccer and baseball on the weekends, so it's gonna be really important to our families. Transitional kindergartens was something that was really important to our administrative staff. The proceeds for these facilities really came from early childhood education, so we should use some of the funding on early childhood education. And I want to make sure that we're being able to recruit new families into the district at an early age, and I think really good, developmentally appropriate TK playgrounds can serve as one of the components to attract new families. The Brookside Bridge, if you've walked over the Brookside Bridge, it just needs to get fixed. It just needs to. It's an expensive item. It's really only one school, but it's pretty important that we do that. And then campus beautification is something that's a little bit lower on the list. This is like paint in painting curbs, painting buildings, landscaping, some simple things. We did a lot of that over the summer. We want to continue to do that. If that doesn't come out of this money, we can use it out of the routine restricted maintenance fund. So it doesn't have to be a priority tonight using this funding. We can always find other funds to continue to do that work.
I think you hit on a question I have, because I look at all of these and they're really wonderful, nice to haves. The Brookside Bridge is I don't think that's a nice to have. That's just, we have to do that.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just wondering, it seems to be an outlier in this list, and just, I guess it's 6 1/2 dozen of the other in terms of a budget line item, Chris, is that correct? So wherever it comes from, it comes from. But we're looking at the sell the property.
The one challenge here, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, is that our total dollars for routine restricted maintenance, and this is important for the community to know, after we pay salaries for our grounds and maintenance team, we've got a couple of $100 for the year to take care of 5 campuses.
A couple of hundred.
A couple $100,000.
Okay, I was like,
I'm like, wow, I could give you that for lunch. Okay, so a couple of hundred.
And the Brookside Bridge is probably going to be in the ballpark of $300,000 to $400,000. So
Okay.
it would soak up almost the majority of our routine restricted maintenance fund after we paid for salaries.
Right. Yeah, it's just good to put that into perspective and to know that I think of anything on this list that is a priority, right? And for the safety of those.
I think that's why
kids.
the administrative team wanted to put that towards the
Yeah.
top of our list,
Yeah,
because it felt more like a must do than a may do.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And then there was some confusion last night at the town hall, like, well, is it preventative maintenance or is it beautification? And so there may be some duplicity there in those responses. So maybe there's a way of kind of combining some of those to, hey, these benches need to get painted. Well, it's also preventative maintenance, but it also looks good. So how did people respond to that? So there's just.
And once we get the input from the board tonight, we actually have a spreadsheet of things that are related to this, in addition to PTO issues and potential bond issues down the road and routine restricted maintenance. So through our facilities walkthroughs, one of the things that's come up on almost every site is tripping hazards. We've got a lot of undulation in our asphalt because of the great redwood trees that we have on our campus. So like grinding down some of those tripping hazards.
Mhm.
We can use that out of routine restricted maintenance,
Mhm.
but it's going to be high on our priority list on this separate spreadsheet.
Okay. And I guess we'll talk about this, but I think about the things that we want to do, the shade structures, for example.
Yep.
Eventually, which is great. I'm up there with needing that, especially given kids' exposure to sun. But as we start to put these things in, are we elevating our obligation to maintain those structures going forward? Do we have to think about budget concerns going forward, that we have to ensure that those shade structures are, one bad storm here or there, that we have to go in and fix those things, right? So we've got that couple of $100,000. I just want to make sure
So we actually took a visit, Chris, Julia, and I, along with one of our TK teachers, TK leads, Cindy Credo, to Santa Fe City Schools to look at their early learning center at Short School, and they had just put up a shade structure that was really it was more of a scaffolding. It was a shade structure, but instead of having the corrugated metal roof, it was actually one of those like those like triangle sails. And that, Chris was saying that's much more easy and cost effective to replace if it ripped or if there was a storm. If the corrugated steel rots out or breaks in a storm or a tree falls on it, that's way more expensive to fix. So seeing that at Santa Fe was it was an idea that we might be able to use at some of our sites.
They can be thousands of dollars to replace one of those, the sail type material, but that's a lot less than the tens of thousands that it costs to actually install from brand new.
And that's my concern is that it sounds like you are approaching it from that. Okay, great. Just making sure.
And we're trying to be creative. So like at Brookside, there's already a really nice shade structure where students eat out by the NPR. But in between the 4th and 5th grade classrooms, kids are out on those tables all the time. And in our facilities walkthrough, we talked about having some sun sails, shades, actually between the two buildings to create some shade while students are working outside. So shade structures might look different at Hidden Valley, where we actually build a real deal shade structure out where students are eating, and we might do something different at Brookside based on the needs of each school.
And what's the sun protective level of these, say, shade cloth things? Is it nothing? It's just a little bit of shade, but you're still getting sunburned? Or is it like SPF 50, where like, all right, kids, you're cool, you can eat, and you don't have to worry about...
I actually don't have an answer for that. That would have to be something to research.
Just something. And then shade is different than range structures.
That's
Because
right.
again, back at Brookside and other schools, backpacks get wet when it rains because there's nowhere to put backpacks inside. And so that's a separate thing.
That's where we start. I mean, as we were doing these facilities walkthroughs, we started having some really great ideas that were maybe a little bit more on the bond type dollar amount. So for instance, when we went to Hidden Valley, or when we went to Wade Thomas today, they kind of have some TK play structures in the back of the school that we could do a more minimal cost on the TK play structure back there, but their asphalt really is in need of resurfacing. So kind of saying we're going to spend a little less on TK, but a little bit more on asphalt repair there. So each site will kind of get what the site needs, and our principals have had a lot of input. And I know a few of our principals have actually reached out to teachers to get teacher input about what the things are that need to be repaired.
And then are we looking at spending like roughly the same amount per school, or is it more because there's more kids at Whitehill? Like, how are you guys imagining like the distribution of the funds?
We haven't really gotten into that, but what you try and do is make sure that every site gets something, because if you don't, then the parents in that area, and rightfully so, have a complaint that they haven't benefited from that. So we would be looking at trying to do projects where everybody wins.
And I think you're doing the right thing by studying what the kids are doing on sunny days, too. Not just saying, oh, let's just put a shade structure over there. Are kids congregating in a place where they're constantly exposed to the sun? I can think of one place at Brookside, where the 6th and the 5th graders sit for lunch, and at Whitehill. So I think you're doing the right thing in terms of assessing the need and talking to the teachers. So hopefully we'll be able to fill those gaps.
Yeah, every site has, I would say, like 2 to 4 really high priority things that we're gonna get done using this money. And if we went dollar for dollar, it's probably not gonna be exactly 50 grand here and 50 grand here and 50 grand here, because right now some of our sites are in a little bit better shape than others. So we're really going to do it based on need. But every site will be getting a healthy injection of this money. There's no doubt.
And does it have to be as specific as like the Measure B bond, like Archie's getting X% versus TAM versus, you look at numbers, Whitehill's got about 30% of our students. So should that get 30% versus like 17% across the board? Do we need to get that granular, or does it need to be that picky?
I think what we could have done with this money is just take it, put it into Chris's maintenance account, and just spent it.
Okay.
But we wanted to be a lot more transparent and collaborative in this process. So we're not going to get to the point where it's 35% was here and 37% was here. But we do want to make sure we're getting input from the community, input from the board to have the highest priorities at each of the sites.
That's good.
And kind of going back to the point is when you're doing this, you want to make sure that every site sees a win in this and that they see that it really truly benefits them, which is one of the things that we're trying to do, make sure that it's equitable to a certain degree to everybody, so everybody feels the value of it, and that can help alleviate some of those problems later on.
Like if you think Brookside's bridge is probably a big priority at Brookside, the asphalt might be a really big priority at Wade Thomas. Hidden Valley, maybe the shade structure is a bigger thing. At Manor, the field might be a bigger one. Whitehill, the field is another one, plus security cameras. So there's like, each site has its own little flavor that it needs. So I guess our ask of you is, are we missing anything? Is there anything else the board would like us to consider? And of the list that you have in front of you, is there anything you want us to bump to the top of the priority list?
I think capturing what the community asked for in its order is what we owe first. And as a trustee, I think that it's reasonable and rational. So I wouldn't change anything personally.
Well, and I would, what do the teachers agree on shades? Like, that's a big, because they're there every day. They see it in August and February, so all seasons, right? Versus some parents might just be there just occasionally at mornings. So I think that, and if that's captured in here as well with site administration.
That's a good point.
When I sent the survey out, I also sent it to staff. We had 277 parent guardians send the survey back. We had 44 staff members and 15 interested community members. Probably when it got posted on Nextdoor, we had some folks that probably were using our fields that wanted to weigh in. And I know at least a couple of our principals talked to their staff before our site walkthrough, so they kind of, plus our principals are pretty in tune with what our staff wants, and they represented that in the site walkthrough data.
Okay.
So I think the feedback that I'm hearing from the board is, let's kind of keep the priority list the way it is. We're representing our parent interest kind of towards the top of the list with the shade structures, preventative maintenance, field improvements, and safety and security. I'm also hearing that the Brookside Bridge is more of a must-do than a may-do. Anything else that I missed?
The TK.
And the TK, I think the administrative staff thinks that's a priority. And again, this is going to look different at each site because each site has kind of a leg in a different spot with TK.
Can I ask one question with this money as well? I know that this is kind of bringing it down to the molecular level where I think our staff may not have a bigger voice here, but is there any way to help check in with our staff in their kitchens, see if they need a new refrigerator or something like that? I know that there are some. Yes, Chris.
We actually have infrastructure dollars for the kitchens if we need them.
Okay.
So we've taken care of the needs as we've seen them, and if we hear from a site that they need something like that, we would replace it.
Okay. We can talk.
Okay.
After the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then is there a distinction between a TK playground and a kindergarten playground, since those kids at some of the campuses share the same structures?
and I think that's why the administrative team put this up on the urgency list. Some of our TK students are playing near a kindergarten play structure but aren't allowed to play on it because it's rated for 5 and above, and we're talking about 4-year-olds, so it can be kind of dangerous. You can imagine a 4-year-old like playing around a play structure going like, I really want to play on that play structure, and having to hold them off. So we want to make sure that our TK students have a place to be outside. Research shows that TK should be outside at least a couple of hours a day. Santa Fe City Schools is doing a minimum of 2 hours a day outside. So doing outside learning and play and free play. And Cindy Credo's feedback really was to think about a TK play structure in the most organic way possible. And when I say organic, you can imagine walking into a TK playground and there's like a little house that's built with like a little kitchenette inside the house, and kids kind of play with the kitchenette. The mental model for a TK student is that this is a house, I need to play house. There's a rule associated with it. Where if it's more of a like an open-ended structure, kids can be creative. It can be a firehouse, it can be a house, it can be a tent, it can be all these different things, and allowing kids to be free in their play. So that feedback from Cindy actually reshaped the way I was thinking about TK. And Chris will talk to the architects about that as well.
A great model for that is the Memorial Park play structure that has that dinosaur there. It's very organic, and kids can go in and out of tunnels and run up and down. Yeah, I agree.
Great.
All right, do we have any more questions for Chris or for Tyler? No? All right, so I will open it up to public comment. It looks like we have 2 people who'd like to comment. Peter Burke, if you'd like to come up. You have 3 minutes, and at 2.5 minutes you'll get in one more.
Great, that would be the beep, I assume. I'm reading on behalf of my wife, Dr. Annie Yuan. She's the WTPA president for Brookside Elementary. I live next there. Wade Thomas Elementary. So verbatim, reading her words. Good evening, my name is Dr. Annie Yuan. I'm a parent of a first grader at Wade Thomas Elementary and this year's WTPA co-president. I'm here to advocate on behalf of Wade Thomas students and the parent community. The $2 million proceeds from the Deer Park sale gives the district an opportunity to improve our school environments. I would like to advocate for an equitable distribution of these funds to improve the infrastructure of Wade Thomas Elementary. The cracked pavement is no longer acceptable, and this is a basic essential repair, not beautification. There cannot be beautification without a physically safe environment first. As a local ER doctor, I'm very concerned about kids tripping over those cracks and falling over unsafe railings. Last week, as I was decorating the campus with balloons to celebrate our successful fun run, I tripped over the uneven pavement and almost tumbled against a non-existent railing covered with a piece of caution tape. On behalf of the Wade Thomas community, I do not think this is an acceptable condition for our children. Children cannot learn in an environment where they have to watch their every step. I think essential maintenance is long overdue, and I urge you to prioritize Wade Thomas students. We constantly expect the best from our children. Why should they expect less from us? Thank you for your time. Her words. Mr. Graff, you are already on top of it with your comments earlier, so I appreciate the effort that you're putting in there. My background is in facilities, utilities, engineering. Is what I do every day for work. I've managed multi-million-dollar projects for BioMarin Pharmaceuticals up in Novato. I will back up what she's saying. A lot of that repair is not preventative maintenance. It's not beautification. Flooring is critical infrastructure. Railings are critical infrastructure. There are a number of ways that I would be happy to assist in helping to guide the team to putting in not only an acceptable solution, but a long-term solution, something that doesn't need ongoing repairs, something that will, hold up and would be successful in the long run. Yes, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have your contact information.
Reach out. I will happily.
But I mean, we need, I don't know how I want to say that, but yes, we need.
We can talk to board.
Okay. Oh, I like getting the community involved that have some expertise and knowledge and ability.
I do as well. All right, and then Michael Kristoff.
My first board meeting.
Welcome.
How's it going? So am I allowed to ask questions, or is it just a pure monologue?
So in public comments, you are addressing the board up to 3 minutes. We are not allowed to respond to your comments.
just
So we can't, it's not a
context.
question and answer, but we can also direct staff to answer questions if there's something
Okay.
that the staff can answer.
All right. So I guess my comment is, first, I'm a parent at Wade Thomas, in Peter's class, actually, or my oldest son is. But I would encourage the board to think about splitting up the money in an equitable fashion, because, I mean, seeing other schools in Marin County and other places, I mean, let's be real, our schools all need a lot of work. They're all in pretty bad shape. So I think, you know, while maybe we've got a lot of responses on this survey, there's a lot more parents that didn't answer the survey. And once the money starts getting spent, I think it will alleviate a lot of maybe, you know, misplaced anger or hurt feelings or whatever. If there's a response that says like, hey, you know, we kind of looked at this formulaically. You know, obviously Brookside needs this bridge replaced, so you can't do anything about that. But, you know, like you were saying before, like some of these bond measures have like a percentage based on students, and it's a lot easier to point to math versus, you know, an individual who made a decision that, you know, this thing at Brookside or Wade Thomas is more important than a thing somewhere else. They all need a lot of work, so I would push for a solution. I know it makes your life harder, right? Because moving the money around is difficult, but I think it might save some pain in the end of people being annoyed that getting spent in places that doesn't benefit them. Two, as a business person, actually my wife and I run a business for many years together, and I always am surprised at how little in these discussions there's talk about making money. It's a lot about using the pot of money that you have. It was actually nice to say that, you know, one of the benefits of spending money on TK is that it brings new families into the district. I know personally when we were making our choice, there were families in our preschool, actually Sam's, which is right here, people who went elsewhere, who went into Wade Thomas and were like, wow, woo, that school looks bad. Like, we're gonna go somewhere else. It looks like it needs a lot of work. And, you know, our experience has been wonderful. The people are what matter. But thinking about how to make money with the money we have, I think is an important consideration. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say the schools have aged quite a bit, you know, that we've looked at, and you know, I know how hard that can be on a district like us, when we have to maintain those aging buildings, thinking at one time they were glorious, right? But I think working with what we have, doing what we can is.
I think it's interesting to think about too the revenue generation. The TK one is a potential revenue generator. If a parent came in, sees a great TK classroom, sees a great play area, might feel a little bit more confident to send their kids here. And then the work that Chris is doing to redo the facilities use agreement to get more funds in there that can help keep our fields in a nicer state. I think those two revenue generating resources could be helpful. It also makes me think about one of the things we talked about at Wade Thomas was actually something that no parent would ever see, but it's actually the sewer. And the sewer line needs work. And it's gonna potentially be a high dollar item. And we've got items like that at every one of our sites that really requires the bond type money. $2 million for a district really isn't gonna go very far. And the routine restricted maintenance of $300,000 to $400,000 to keep up 5 large facilities every year is just, it's not enough.
Okay, well, so you are looking for a recommendation on this list. Do we have any adjustments to the list that we have here? As a board?
Well, adjustments to the topics, because we're not talking about location yet. We're just talking about this.
Just
One thing
I'll stick with what I said earlier.
You know, I'd be happy to take the document that Chris, Des, and I have created that has a list of different priorities at each site. Some are PTA related, like the Gaga pit at Wade Thomas. That's an easy PTA ask there. We're not going to ask the PTA to replace the sewer line, right? Like that's going to have to be from our funding. So we have that prioritized list. Chris is in the process of putting a dollar amount to each of those. So what we can do as a staff is take a look at how we're using the Deer Park funding and see about how much we're spending in each site and try to keep that amount equitable across the 5 sites.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important that we make sure that it's going to be, I mean, otherwise you're going to end up with the situation with TAM and their partial tax or not their bond and people who are upset about the distribution. So did we want to change the priority of these ones that are?
Or are we actually like saying 1, 2, 3, 4?
We're happy to take direction from the board, or the board can tell us that the priorities that we've gathered from the parents and staff is appropriate. I mean, one of the things I'm hearing is the Brookside Bridge is kind of a must-do. So it needs to be on the list, no matter where it is. So you got to fit that $300 or $400 item in there somewhere.
You know, I am a risk manager. I'm always about safety.
But we would say the same. I would say the same thing about the sewer lateral at Wade Thomas. That's a safety basic
infrastructure.
Basic infrastructure. So, but that's so.
I mean, we're happy to add the sewer lateral to the list.
Yeah.
Can I make a shitty joke? No, that's not good. Okay, there, I made it.
I mean, do we need to officially add that to the list, or you just added it, or?
I just added it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Now,
So
what I can do also is I can come back to the board at the end of the year, give the final prioritized list, give you an update on where we are with the projects. Many of these will happen in the summer anyways, so we've got a long time to bid projects and do all that. We can come back in, May or June and give you an update on the dollar items and what's at the top of the list.
And hopeful we will not have any destructive weather.
Or children.
Because that can change the priority list quickly.
Is it good practice to notify the community, the district, the parents, like, hey, this is what we've done this month or the past 6 months at the school? Like there were some things when we were talking in Hidden Valley, we were like, oh yeah, that's just on the list. Great, we're gonna take care of that in the next, whatever, couple of weeks, couple of months. So is there anything that parents or community members would, okay, that's cool, that's getting repaired?
I can do some parent squared newsletters. I'd be happy to do that.
I don't know if that's the right thing. I'm just trying to, if there's a sense of like, to Peter's point, like, oh, good, I heard this is getting done, it's getting done, that feels better to me as a parent, maybe.
Right now, it feels like some parents are reading my parent square newsletters, which I'm very happy about. I hope we can keep that momentum up. And in terms of like one of my focal areas of culture and climate across the district, it's about trust and transparency. And if I can do a couple parent squares, one in January, one in towards the end of the year, just updating folks on the projects we're doing across the district, it wouldn't hurt and it wouldn't take me that long.
Maybe in line with the PTA, if the PTA does something like that, hey, the Gaga pit just got updated at Wade Thomas or put in at Brookside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think those would be like nice little wins for people, again, assuming if they're reading it.
Yeah.
Just nice job, team, thank you, right?
And just to be clear, I think the Gaga pit situation should be a PTA driven expense.
Yeah, I think that's what, yeah.
I think that's something Chris, Des, and I keep talking about as we're looking at this list. What's appropriate for routine restricted maintenance? What's appropriate for this money? What's kind of a bond expenditure? And what feels right to ask a PTA for? Because PTAs, our parent community is like very eager to support, but we just want to make sure we're asking in the right area so it feels like an enrichment to the school, not a like key facilities
So like,
thing.
look at how great the Manor teacher room is that the PTA helped put together a couple of years
Great
ago,
idea.
right? Like that's awesome. There's pride there. Parents can feel good about it. Teachers feel great about it. So yeah, so that's that spirit that we're looking for with.
But I think it can't ever be policy driven because they never know how much money they're going to raise each year.
That's right.
And I think that it has to be a fluid consideration. And there might be some years where they can say, heck yeah, we can do it all. And other times they can't.
That's right.
Yeah. As long as there's nothing in writing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, good. Do you have enough direction on this one?
I've got plenty of direction.
All right. And a lot of comments. Okay, so moving on, we have consent actions. We don't have anything that any of you would like to pull out to specifically discuss. We can approve them in one action.
I had one question
Great. Go for it.
on the surplus textbooks.
Yes.
When these are obsolete, they contain information that is no longer relevant to the core curriculum, or are they, I mean, like, it's like, you know, we're talking about teaching Christopher Columbus was a great guy and he came over and made friends with everybody. I mean, or what makes it to where we get rid of them rather than donate them?
In my experience, oftentimes it's like an Algebra 1 textbook that was adopted in 2001 that's been used for 15 years and then sits in a book room for another 10 years. And then finally, someone from the site is like, we got to get these out of here.
Good. It's
And
the
we've already adopted a
encyclopedias
new
from
text.
1965.
So you got
Okay.
family math from 1998.
I
mean,
looked at the math is absolute. You know.
No, we have new
but
math
now we
now.
have new math,
So
and
this is old math.
so anyways,
It's different.
I just that's why I just wanted to understand the
question.
context.
And some of these were like sample pilot books that we
Yeah,
were doing.
just-
so-
But also when I was in the library last year, like if a book hasn't been checked out in some amount of time, whatever that is in best practice, a year, 2 years, all right, let's clear some space, or is it 5 years, whatever it is, and that's tough to do. So I don't know how we're doing that in our libraries.
I've seen it done where librarians or library media specialists have a list of how often books have been checked out and when the publishing date was, and then can do an average of the published date in the library that they have, and then they try to move that to a more relevant year. So you might have an average publishing date of 1980, then you know you've got to go in your library and refresh and add some
Without
new books.
full-time staff, I mean, Miss King, I can only speak of, you know, she doesn't have time to do that.
Yeah.
So I wonder how we're doing that in our libraries. Maybe just something to kind of think about.
It's
Do you know the answer? Go ahead.
Your staff, go ahead, Jason.
we have a librarian on staff who weeds them out. She goes to each site and weeds out the libraries. So it's been on agenda items that we donate library books.
Awesome.
Thank you,
We
Jason.
donate them.
Thanks,
That's
Teresa.
great.
Well, we try to donate them
Like
if
they're
people will
library.
take them,
Yeah.
but it's hard to find places to take them.
Okay. I have an unnatural relationship with books. I just love them, and so I tend to say any book that gets thrown away, it is a rat. You know, just anyway. That's
Am I
just,
hearing board direction that you'd like these books dropped off at your house?
You know what? Considering my porch already looks like a buy nothing festival, I would say put them on the. You want a motion?
Yes, okay. Unless there's anything else you would like to discuss. Is there any public comment on this item? We'd be happy to go out to public comment if there's any. None? Okay. Lovely. So then I will entertain a motion.
I will provide a motion for all the consent action items on the list to be approved by one motion.
Great. Do I have a
And I'll
second?
second it.
Thank you. Chris?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Rachel, aye. All right, so we have consent items approved. Moving on to board business. Is that it? I didn't skip this one. Okay. So the first item is committee updates and reports from it and announcements by trustees.
I will start. I missed the last board meeting for this update, so this is a little dated, but not really because we're not meeting until the end of the year. But we had our first JIPA meeting for the yellow school bus, and we received the beginning of the year numbers for on time, as well as the feedback from taking the panic lotto out of the situation. And in short, it was one of the most positive meetings I think that this committee has experienced in a long time. We kind of walked out sort of wishing it could always be like that.
And parents were there?
No parents, but the on-time percentage is 98% on time. And the reason why it's 98% is because of the construction. But with the construction, the communication to the parents was timely enough for parents and also Zero Period, for example, in Whitehill, to know that kids were going to be late showing up to school. So the system has been working well. So that was a very positive meeting, and we're hopeful that it will continue to be an efficiently run positive experience, because last year it was not. So that's the update from that.
Great, thank you. Daniel, should I think?
I think that the town hall meeting last night was really good. It was positive. New families, new people there, which was cool. I don't know. We had about 30, 35 people, and then the budget advisory committee on Monday night. Another very well-run meeting. I thought that was excellent. That maybe 40 people there. So hopefully it was some different people. I thought that was really good. A way of just, again, this is what we're working on. This is what I'm learning. This is what I'm hearing. So I think that transparency is getting there. Tyler and Chris, nice job on all that. And then the special education town hall on November 6th. I want to make sure there's a couple of board members at that, because that was a really interesting for me. The first time seeing just the dynamic in that meeting last night. It's like, oh yeah, we need a lot of attention here, right? And it's very emotional. So I thought they were really well-run meetings. They were not just well-run, but like impactful. Like there were some good outcomes to them.
That's good.
Yeah, and I agree. I was at both of those meetings, the budget advisory committee and the town hall. So I agree. Thank you for for running those. Those were excellent. I also went to Manor for their assembly with Matt Scott, who's a Paralympian, two-time gold medalist, and he's a basketball player on Team USA, and he was phenomenal. He had those kids like cheering and shouting and asking so many questions just about his disability, how he plays, the role of the game. It was just a really lovely kind of way to introduce the kids to that whole area of sports, and just it was wonderful. I can't say enough about it. It was great. And then I also went to the Manor Fun Run, and I went to the Wade Thomas Fun Run. So I saw a lot of kids running last week, and it was neat.
Yeah, it made me think. I wanted to take my kids to that event at Manor. Well, I can't take them out of Brookside to go to the Manor event. Is there anything that we could do at a district where, imagine like, hey, third grade, we're going to have an all third grade assembly at Whitehill to hear a guest speaker, and almost like a little field trip for an hour or two.
Let's put that on meeting review for future topics.
Got it. Oh,
Okay.
All right.
All right, so moving on, we have the Board of Trustees revised calendar. Ooh, and my computer just decided to restart. Sorry, the computer thing. So we have a Board of Trustees revised calendar meeting for 2024-25. Looks like there was one date that was changed in December.
Works for me, because now I'll be here.
Moving it from the December 11th to
Yeah.
December 18th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we needed to move this due to the election, and having enough time to nominate any new board members. We'll have 3 new board members or 3 re-elected board members, our combination of that. And we need to make sure that the results of the election have been certified before we do that at the board meeting, and it wouldn't happen at December 11th, so we'd have to wait all the way till January.
Sounds great.
Is that accurate, Chris?
It just has to be after the second Friday in December,
The second Friday.
which
I
the
knew
second
this-
Friday would be the 13th, Friday the 13th, I think, because wasn't the date originally the 11th?
Yeah. So, I mean, it works for me. 18th works for me.
That was my only question. I knew there's some weird thing about timing and making sure we have a meeting in a certain time frame. I just wasn't sure.
Do we need to vote on approving that change, or is that just a FYI?
I think we might have to vote on that one. Hold on, sorry, my computer's just restarting.
If I could say one other thing, it does cause a slight problem with our budget because the budget is supposed to be approved prior to December 15th. But what I have to do is get all of my documents to the County Office of Education by that date. So you will approve it after that date, just submit the signed document. So this is something that happens throughout the state, and it is caused by a change in law about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So is that going to put you behind, or that's
No.
okay?
We're good with that. I just wanted to make you aware.
Okay.
Noted.
So, do we have any public comment on this item? No? If we have no public comment, I will entertain a motion.
To approve the revised calendar. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the revised calendar for the Board of Trustees for the 2024-25 school year.
Have a second?
I will second it.
All right, Chris?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Rachel, aye, and we have approved that change to change the calendar. The next item is approval of regular meeting minutes. Are we missing somebody?
Well, I was missing the
You're
one
missing that
in
one.
September,
Okay,
so we couldn't approve it last time because I couldn't vote.
and then it's back here, and now we don't have quorum. Okay, so we're gonna have to push that one to the next meeting. Sorry, Teresa. And the next item after that is approval of the regular meeting minutes for October 9th, 2024.
But I don't think we can do that because it's just you and I that were here.
That's also correct. All right, so I guess those will just be floating around for the next couple meetings. All right. And with that, we're gonna get to superintendent and cabinet report.
Great, I have had a wonderfully busy and fun last 2 weeks. This afternoon, I presented the budget roadshow that I've been giving to CSEA at their CSEA meeting. So it was great to get in front of our custodial staff and our front office admin to give that budget update to them, and I think it was relatively well received. We did 3 facilities walkthroughs this week, 2 today and 1 on Monday. Had the budget advisory committee on Monday. Chris did a really wonderful job with that, and cabinet did a really nice job designing the agenda for that, and I really appreciate their input. The town hall last night I thought went well. My slide deck was far too long.
Yeah, what happened to your 10 and 10?
Exactly. I need to work on that. I'm 0 for 2. And then I was at the superintendent summit last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it was a really nice conference. I had some takeaways mainly around like school marketing and strategic planning. Not a conference I'd go to again, but it was good just to kind of hear from other superintendents, especially since I'm 4 months into this, just to hear from people that have been doing it for a lot longer than me. And we finalized negotiations with RVTA, so we have tentative agreements on all the items. They're taking it to their members for ratification here in the next little bit, so hopefully we get a nice vote from them, and they'll give us an update once that vote's held. Chris or Eric, any updates?
I just wanted to let everybody know that we do have another budget advisory committee meeting coming up. It's on Monday, November 4th, which is prior to our next governing board meeting as well. And it was I do want to say that it was interesting going out to our school sites and looking at them the past few days in the multiple arenas that I've been looking at them in terms of the transitional kindergarten areas, the kindergarten areas, and also just looking at the facilities in general. And I do want to say that the principal at Wade Thomas was very much in support of everything that was spoken about this evening in terms of the playgrounds and getting those repaved. So just wanted to make that known as well.
Yeah, student services. 2 weeks back, I was at the County Office of Ed with 3 of our Brookside staff at the NorCal Inclusion Collaborative. And so our SELPA has brought in members from the Department of Ed, and they're leading a 3-session professional development series on building inclusive practices in our schools. And it was really, really exciting. The keynote address was from a San Marin High School sophomore, a blind student, who spoke for over a half an hour on ableism, on what it means to actually study and exist in a space that sometimes gets it right and sometimes doesn't. And a little secret I haven't let the team in on, but I'm happy to share it here, is I'm trying to get that kid to come talk to our staff. Really special experience. And there's 2 more meetings this year, and I know we'll have more team members joining that. I was also at the Budget Advisory Committee Monday. It feels like it was like 2 weeks ago, but it was just Monday, right? And that was I thought it just really positive and great to have the community out and the staff out talking about tough topic. And then as I shared, I think a couple meetings ago on the status under disproportionality, we have to work with the State Department of Ed through the different steps. The step 2 was due mid-October and they approved it. So the confetti dropped, and now we keep moving forward with actually developing the plan on the general ed side of things to figure out our target population of students that we're going to focus on in an effort to have there be less instances of students needing to move into special education level support, because we're finding them earlier and we're intervening earlier. And right now the team, after a lot of conversation, is looking to focus on our TK and kindergarten kids. So more to come on that process as we move forward. I did a visit up to the Cypress Non-Public School in Petaluma, where we have some of our wonderful students placed, so that I could check in on them. And those visits are really wonderful, because we get to, sometimes it'll be a couple months between when I see our kids and they've grown like 6 inches, and I'm like, what the heck? He was like practically taller than I am. And also too, just working with their staff, because of course they're a different, agency than we are, but we're still partners in collaborating on educating these students, working with the families. So those relationships are really important to me and to the district. And November 19th, we have the first wellness committee meeting of this year. We had to reschedule it. So I'm looking forward to bringing that team together.
November 15th?
Tuesday the 19th.
Tuesday the 19th.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on, we have meeting review, future board topics, and board direction. Daniel.
Oh, I got a good idea. It just came up with. Is there space anywhere in our district to have, all 2nd graders come hear this guest speaker, or all 5th grade, because it was a really cool opportunity for Manor, right? Or this speaker that you just heard of, the San Marin student, Like, is there a place, and again, my bias is how do we get more of our elementary school students and their parents to the White Hill campus sooner so they can start learning and hearing all the great things about White Hill to destigmatize White Hill as well. So if you have second graders, hey, we're gonna go spend a morning at White Hill to hear some lecture, how many parents to drive? I don't know if this is possible, but oh wow, this is nice, this is cool. Sixth graders are kept separate, seventh and eighth, wow, this is really cool. I can't wait for my kids to go to White Hill. And the kids are excited about White Hill. So I don't know if there's a space like that, but that could be a really good opportunity. Because look at how successful the buddy, another thing is buddy programs are so awesome at our elementary school.
Yeah.
Right? My second grade daughter can't wait to be a big buddy next year. Right? She's like, I can't wait to be a big buddy. So maybe there's some type of cross-pollination of big buddies and little buddies at the middle school and the elementary schools as well. Right? If there's a 7th grade class with a 4th grade class, just again, destigmatizing middle school. It gives those middle schoolers a chance to show leadership and maturity to a younger group. Ms. Pellery did a great job this week at Brookside about having junior coaches. So 5th graders were junior coaches across the lunch period every Wednesday. So some kids were coaching soccer, volleyball, some type of tag game, hide and seek game. There's new hide and seek. It's not old hide and seek. It's like new map, old map. But how can we do like a junior buddy program with like the middle schoolers, where then we're taking then the elementary school students to go to their library and read with your big buddy or something like that. Again, how do we get more kids at White Hill sooner and more parents at White Hill sooner, just so they can realize, wow, this is a really great school, great facilities. I can't wait for my kid to be in middle school.
I love the idea. I cringe at the execution. Like can't even get enough parents to drive one class to wildcare.
Yeah.
So can't discuss right now, but we can put ideas out.
Yeah.
Oh, ideas.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not agendas to discuss. No, it's okay.
Great idea.
All right, we have any other ideas? Daniel.
I'm all out of ideas.
Thank you for that. All right, meeting debrief. Anything to comment on?
It's a great meeting, really good meeting.
I'd like to get it stopped before 8. That's my goal. All right, so we don't need to continue past 10:30. At 7:44, I will adjourn our meeting.